Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and drop a like on this video. I'm trying to hit 100k subscribers on the channel by the end of the playoffs, so your subscription would be much appreciated. Also drop a like, it only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference. Hot takes, let's get into it. Paul George is low-key one of the biggest snubs of the NBA's top 75 list because people do not fuck with him, but he is actually a very respectable career as a talent and success on the level of surprising players like, surprising players like Dame, T-Mac, and Vince and Melo. If you want to say that he's had like a similar level of success to those guys, I don't think it's that. I don't know that he's quite like on that tier. He's just like maybe a smidge below for longevity's sake. Outside of maybe Dame, I think they've been, yeah, they've basically been at the caliber that we know them to be on the same tier. Like their careers have pretty much coincided. But T-Mac, Vince, and Melo, I would say. Well, actually, I would say that T-Mac and Vince are better than Paul George. But let's not do this right now. I already had the whole Melo versus Paul George hot takes video a long time ago. Basically, I do agree with this take. I do think Paul George is a top 75 player of all time. And he didn't make it, but there's also a lot of snubs that stood out before him, so that's kind of the biggest reason why. Like, we haven't talked about him because we're too busy on like Dwight Howard, for example. DeMar is going to finish top 3 in MVP voting, but he should be winning it. The argument for DeMar winning MVP would be his scoring punch and the way that he has impacted the Chicago Bulls with that scoring. But there are teams that, now that the Bulls have fallen in the standings, have better records than the Bulls, or similar-ish record to the Bulls, and their MVP candidate is scoring just as well, if not better. Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and Giannis all averaging more points, or similar. I think Jokic is averaging a little bit less, but on better efficiency. All of them better efficiency. So, and they're doing more than just the scoring. And DeRozan's playmaking a decent bit, but at the end of the day, unfortunately, they're just better players than DeMar, who have done more than DeMar, and are on teams that are equally as successful, if not better. So I feel like the reason DeMar is getting in these races is more the surprise of anything. But don't let the surprise actually blind you from the reality of who is actually better and who actually has a better MVP case. DeMar is not MVP. And I would say, as much as I would like to see it, but I honestly don't want to see a player on my team win MVP and then he immediately gets bashed as the worst MVP ever. So I'd prefer not to see that happen personally. Zion will leave the Pels and the league will change free agency rules to give players less power, and we will go back to 1990. This is absolutely not true in my opinion. I don't feel like the wave of player empowerment and the way that players are getting more and more power, I don't think that's going to flip in the opposite direction. I'm pretty sure it's just going to keep going on the trajectory. And if there is some major push by the league and from owners and all that stuff to try and flip the script on that one, all I think that's going to happen is the players are going to form their own league. Like, they have the power. They have the leverage here. The players are what people pay to see. If enough players actually just left the league and created their own league, people would watch that shit way before they'd watch the NBA if it was some of the league's top talent, and they would have the resources, the power, and ability to do that. So I think players have just realized their value as the years have gone on, and that's not going anywhere. And there's no amount of rule changes that are going to make the players not realize the value that they have. And not to mention, free agency has nothing to do with Zion. Well, I guess it would be a trade right now. It could be free agency later. But no, that's not going to happen. The league is only going to lose this player empowerment race. It's just a matter of how fast. And I personally think it's a good thing, but it depends on who you ask. A team being the #1 seed without having a top 15 player in the league does not have to automatically mean they are the 2015 Hawks. I mean, there's the 2017 Celtics. There is the, what's the other team that I was thinking of when I looked at this take? The Utah Jazz. No, they don't have to be, but in general, usually if you don't have a top 15 player, you're kind of a fraud. Now, I'm sure you're talking about the Phoenix Suns in this case. I don't believe that to be the case with the Phoenix Suns because that's such a well-oiled machine, and I think it goes beyond talent, on top of the fact that they're extremely deep with talent. But yeah, I think it is a little unfair to give that criticism every single time. But in general, if you're a really good team but you don't have a top 15 player, I think it's right to look at that team with a little bit of hesitance. Like, there's not enough here to be certain for sure. Westbrook's career is basically over if this season does not turn around for him. His only success will now come on bad teams where he runs the show completely. Yeah, this is a conversation that I think it might have been Dom2K was brought up on Twitter. Like, what team signs Russell Westbrook? Like, let's say Russell Westbrook declines his player option or plays another disastrous season in LA and then he's a free agent. Like, what team signs Russell Westbrook and for what role? Because at this point, his reputation is tarnished enough that no one's going to sign Westbrook to be a first, second, or third star. Really, no one's going to want to assign him that role. Is he a sixth man? Is he capable of reaching that mentality and playing that role? And also, as a sixth man, not interrupting the flow of what you're doing with your star players? I don't know. That is a very interesting situation with Russ because he kind of finds himself in the position of you have to do a lot of accommodating for him, but at this point he's not good enough to be worth that accommodation. So you kind of just sit yourself in purgatory where it's like, what position do you have in the NBA? It's much less that he's not necessarily talented, but more so what team has the position to fit your very specific criteria of talent. So it could be possible, but I'm sure someone signs him. But I just don't know that we're going to see Russ successful in the metric that we consider success to be ever. Like, I think this was his last chance, and it's very clearly not going to turn around. So, unfortunate. Onyeka Okongwu will be top 3. Onyeka Okongwu will be all NBA in 3 years. I would say it'd be all defense in 3 years, and the Hawks have to trade Clint Capella to actually get around to doing this. But Onyeka Okongwu is a defensive monster. Like, already, if he got full starters minutes and the Hawks are pretty good, he'd be an all defensive guy. On top of that, his offense has room to grow, and there's some promising polish there. But all NBA level, I don't see that. But his rebounding and his defense is amazing, and I think he could be an all defensive guy for sure. On the opposite end of the Russ take spectrum, Russ is not having a bad season individually. His stats and efficiency are nearly the same as usual. High amount of assists and rebounds, same turnovers. He is just shooting less. Well, I think the situation comes down to what LA is and it making his weaknesses even weaker and his strength less strong. Like, the LA situation is so antithetical to what you want out of Russell Westbrook that it actively does harm to his reputation. And there's some confirmation bias, like people are expecting Russ to be bad now, and thus whenever he's bad, it's talked about to death. And then when he's fine, it's not. But in general, like, the flaws of Russ's game have never been more obvious. The strength of his game have never seemed more muddied. And even if you want to say statistically it's been relatively similar, this goes to show you that stats are not everything. And he is shooting the ball less, quite a bit less. So the point production is a factor there. And the fact that he is shooting the ball less, but he is just as inefficient, is a problem. So yeah, he's been worse. It's not fake. He's been worse. Especially in fucking February. My God, was his numbers bad in February. Desmond Bain's ceiling is similar to Jimmy Butler. Great defense, ball handling abilities, playmaking, except with a better shot. I just don't see a world where his ball handling or playmaking reaches the level of Jimmy Butler, nor his defense, really. I don't think people realize how good peak Jimmy Butler was defensively. He was better in Chicago than he has been in Miami. I do think he could be an all-star caliber player for sure, but Jimmy Butler tier, not gonna give him that. Maybe, not out of the realm of possibility, but I wouldn't bet on it. The Mavs won the Kristaps Porzingis trade. You know, the more you look into it, the way Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans have played thus far, they both seem to be back to form. We'll have to give that more time before we say definitively if they're actually back or not, but the fact that they have been as good as they have been, like, if they continue to be that good, then yeah, they absolutely won the Porzingis trade. The absolute craziness of that trade and why everyone was all over it initially was that both of those guys have been bad and they're really overpaid. But they're good now, and they're still a little overpaid, but shit, if they're going to be good, then we can live with that. That is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for me cuts like this, and cue the outro music.